Aston Villa are 6th in the Premier League table and have actually only lost one of the last 8 league games. However, before the end of this year, they have to play Chelsea, Manchester United, Brighton, and Arsenal twice. And for all of Unai Emery's side's success in the last month or so, they have struggled to score goals. However, fortunately for the Villans, Youri Tielemans is expected to return from a long-term injury this weekend, and I think he could be exactly what they need to keep their season on track and their ambitions of reaching the top 6 next year. To Emery's credit, he has undoubtedly managed to guide Villa through what was a tricky start to the season and back towards the top of the table, and he's done so without clearly having the attacking talent and intent that was so crucial to them last season. Over the course of their first 11 games, Villa have actually only scored 13 goals. Their top goal scorers in the Premier League are Malen and Buendía, and just 6 teams in the division have scored fewer goals than Emery's side so far this season. And when we take a look at the numbers, it's not hard to see why. For example, when we take a look at which clubs are averaging the most counter-attacks and the most positional attacks, i.e. an open play attack that isn't a counter-attack, we can see that Emery's side have been pretty dreadful at both. No other club in the Premier League averages fewer counter-attacks than Villa, and just 3 clubs, Fulham, Crystal Palace and Burnley, average fewer positional attacks in the league this season. Now, to be fair to Aston Villa, they have improved in this regard in the last month or so. They've scored 12 goals in their last 6 league games. But when we go back to that decent run of form, those 5 wins in their last 6 games, I think it's probably more likely that those results have come about from the fact that they've only conceded 3 goals in those 5 victories, as opposed to some resurgence in attacking intent. When we take a look at Villa's passing stats in the Premier League last season, we can see that Tielemans was comfortably Villa's best player for both key passes and passes into the final third of the pitch. Over the course of the league campaign, the Belgian international completed more than twice as many passes to the final third than any other Villa player, and his 60 key passes was rivaled only by Morgan Rogers' 51. Even when we then break those stats down into per 90 averages, we can still see that Tielemans is still head and shoulders above his Villa counterparts at the club last season in the Premier League. For example, he averaged 6.82 passes into the final third per 90, which is 44% more than the next best midfielder, which was Boubacar Kamara, and his key passes per 90 were 22% better than Rodgers' in the league last season. The other crucial metrics that's worth bearing in mind here are the progressive passes of Villa's players last season. Over the course of the 24-25 league campaign, Tielemans completed twice as many progressive passes, that of course is a pass that moves the ball 10 yards closer to the opponent's goal, than any other player in Emery's team. And again, when we break that down into per 90 averages, the Belgians' return of 6.99 progressive passes per 90 far exceeds the next best players in Kamara and Pau Torres, who finished on 4.33 per 90. So basically, when we break down any playmaking stat and metric, we can see that Tielemans was comfortably the best player in Emery's team last season for not only getting passes into the final third, but also getting the ball into goal-scoring opportunities for his teammates. Now, Villa do undoubtedly have great players who can step in for Tielemans and have done so to some extent this season. Matty Cash, for example, on that right flank has been excellent in terms of getting the ball into the final third, and his progressive passes numbers are very impressive this season. And of course, John McGinn and Rodgers have actually seen their key passes rise this season to somewhat compensate for Tielemans. But the point is, there's no player in that team that can do all the things that Tielemans does as well as the Belgian international. And crucially, with Tielemans back in that Aston Villa starting 11, I wouldn't be surprised if Villa's counter-attacks and positional attacks per game rise quite dramatically over the next month, which in turn should see Emery's side navigate through what is a tricky run of fixtures between now and the end of the year, and keep them on track for their top 6 ambitions in the second half of the season.